The last thing I ever expected to receive in the mail was my brother's phone. Not his actual device, not at first. What arrived was a plain white envelope. No return address, my name printed on a label that looked like it came from an office printer. A county seal sat in the corner, blurry enough that I nearly tossed it with the grocery ads. Inside lay one sheet of paper. It stated that property tied to the 2018 Hollow Bend incident had been recovered during an audit of an old county impound facility. It said I'd been identified as next of kin for Nathan Cole. It instructed me to report to the North County Vehicle Annex before midnight that Friday if I wanted to retrieve it before it was transferred or destroyed. There was a case number. I recognized that number intimately. I'd typed it into search bars so many times over the years that my phone would auto-complete it before I finished the first few digits. Hollow Bend accident. For people in a car, 1 dead at the scene, 2 missing, 1 survivor who vanished from the hospital before police could take a full statement. My brother Nate had been one of the missing. That was 8 years ago. I was 19 then. Nate was 17. He was the type of kid who borrowed my clothes without asking and acted like he was doing me a favor by wearing them. He was perpetually making videos on his phone. Silly stuff at first. Pranks, skateboarding, his friends attempting to jump a creek on dirt bikes. Then, toward the end, he got into filming local things, stuff nobody else cared about. He filmed a run-down apartment complex that kept catching fire. He filmed a city contractor dumping trash behind a closed factory. He filmed police cars parked behind a bar after midnight, officers entering through the back entrance. I used to tell him to quit acting like he was some kind of reporter. He'd laugh and say, "Somebody has to pay attention." The last time I saw him, he stood in our kitchen with his hoodie half-zipped and a backpack hanging off one shoulder. He told my mom he was staying at his friend Owen's house. My mom asked what they were up to. He said, "Nothing stupid." Then he looked at me and smiled because we both knew that meant the exact opposite. The car went off Hollow Bend Road less than 2 hours later. Owen Merrow died before the ambulance arrived. A girl named Lena Ward survived with a broken collarbone, burns on one side of her face, and a concussion so severe she could barely answer questions. My brother was gone. The police theorized he must have wandered off after the crash. That never made sense. The car was halfway down an embankment, smashed into trees. There was blood inside. Broken glass littered the area. Nate's backpack was found on the road. His shoe was discovered near the ditch. But no Nate, no body, no explanation. Initially, my family thought he'd been taken to another hospital under a different name. Then we thought he'd run away out of fear. Then we suspected kidnapping. After a few months, people stopped calling. After a year, detectives stopped returning messages unless my mom threatened to contact local news. After 3 years, everyone started using the word missing in that softer voice people reserve for when they really mean dead. The letter brought everything flooding back in about 5 seconds. I read it 3 times. Then I searched the address. North County Vehicle Annex was real. An old impound garage on the edge of a rural industrial area, about 40 minutes outside town. The county had relocated most operations years ago, but the building still appeared on municipal property lists. The odd part was the time, before midnight on a Friday. I called the number at the bottom of the letter. A woman answered after 4 rings. County records. I gave her my name and asked about the letter. A pause. Then, "I'm sorry, sir. Which department did you say sent it?" Evidence recovery. North County Vehicle Annex. I'm not seeing anything under that location. You have a case number right there. I'm sorry. I don't have access to historical impound records. Can you transfer me to someone who does? I can give you the main county number. That's the number you called. Another pause. Sir, if you received a letter regarding recovered property, I would recommend going to the listed location. I almost laughed. That's your advice? It is. Then she hung up. I should have ignored it. I should have called a lawyer. I should have told my mom. Instead, I tucked the letter in my jacket pocket, grabbed my keys, and drove out there alone. At the time, I told myself it was to avoid getting my mom's hopes up. The truth was worse. I didn't want her to see me disappointed again. It had been raining most of the day. Not a thunderstorm, nothing dramatic, just steady, cold rain that made roads shine black under headlights. North County Vehicle Annex sat behind a chain-link fence at the end of a service road, pitted with potholes deep enough to rattle my car. The main gate was open. That bothered me immediately. The place looked abandoned. Weeds pushed through cracks in the pavement. A faded sign near the entrance still bore the county logo, but half the letters were missing. One of the garage doors had been bent inward, as if something heavy had struck it years ago and nobody had bothered to fix it. 6 cars were parked inside the fence. I pulled in beside them. For a moment, I sat with the engine running. The building had only a few lights on, yellow light leaking through dirty front windows. I could see shadows moving inside, but not clearly enough to identify who they belonged to. I checked my phone. No signal. Strange, but not impossible. The area was low and surrounded by trees. I grabbed the letter and got out. Rain hit the top of my hood and ran down the back of my neck before I even reached the front door. It was unlocked. Inside, the building smelled like old oil, wet concrete, and something sour I couldn't immediately place. The front office was just clean enough to look occupied. A folding table near the wall, a coffee machine, a stack of paper cups, and a portable heater humming beside a filing cabinet. 5 people stood around the room. The first I noticed was a woman around my age with dark hair tied back under a knit cap, wearing a green rain jacket and muddy boots. She leaned against a desk with arms crossed, eyeing everyone the way you look at strangers in a broken elevator. A heavy-set man in a gray coat paced near the heater, red-faced, rubbing his hands together. A woman in her 50s sat in one of the plastic chairs, both hands wrapped around a paper cup. Another man in a clean black jacket looked overdressed for the place. Neat hair, expensive shoes, and the annoyed expression of someone never forced to wait anywhere. The last person stood near the far window. Thin, maybe late 40s, narrow face, brown work jacket, continually looking outside. Nobody spoke when I entered. Then a man in the gray coat said, "You get a letter, too? I'll mine up." "Yeah." He gave a humorless laugh. "Good. So at least I'm not the only idiot who came." The woman in the green jacket looked at my letter. "Same case number?" I nodded. Her expression shifted. Not fear exactly, but recognition. "What's your name?" she asked. "Evan Cole." The woman in the plastic chair dropped her cup. It didn't spill much, but it left a wet brown stain on the floor. Everyone looked at her. She stared at me like I'd said something impossible. "Cole," she said quietly. Then the front office door opened behind us. A man stepped in from a garage, tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a dark blue work shirt with a patch over the pocket. His name Patch, said Morrow. He had gray in his beard and water dripping from the edges of his baseball cap. "Sorry," he said. "Generator keeps cutting out in the back." He surveyed the room. "Everybody here?" The man in the gray coat said, "What exactly is this?" "I was told there'd be someone from county evidence." The man in the work shirt set a clipboard down on the desk. "I work maintenance. County sent me to open up and make sure the property gets released." "Who are you?" the woman in green asked. "Cal Morrow." The woman in the chair made a small sound in her throat. Cal looked at her. For a second, neither moved. Then he said, "Marlene." Her face went pale. The man in the black jacket looked between them. "You two know each other?" "No," Marlene said too quickly. Cal gave a slow nod. "Sure." Something tightened in my stomach. The man in the gray coat started talking again. "My name's Ross Wynn. I got a letter saying there was property belonging to someone connected to a case from 2018. I didn't get much more than that." The man in black said, "Gavin Ree." The woman in green said, "Tessa. Just Tessa." Marlene didn't give a last name. Cal looked at all of us, then down at the clipboard. "Right. We got 6 people. That's what I was told." "6?" I said. "There are 6 names on the list." I looked around. Me, Tessa, Marlene, Ross, Gavin. That was 5. The thin man by the window turned around. "Didn't," he said, voice low and flat. Cal glanced at him a little longer than he did the rest of us, then checked the last name. Unexplained. The guy nodded. Cal put the clipboard down. Okay, I need everyone to sign in. Then I'll take you one at a time to the evidence lockers. Gavin let out a breath through his nose. Finally, he walked toward the desk. Cal held up a hand. Before we start, the back section is unstable. You stay in the office or the main garage. Don't wander around. Ross looked at the dark hallway behind Cal. What's unstable about it? Floor damage, old pits. Some equipment still has pressure in the lines. That's reassuring, Ross said. Cal didn't smile. Tessa looked at the clipboard. Can I see the list? Cal covered it with his hand. No. Why not? Because it has personal information on it. You just read everybody's names out loud. That was enough. For the first time, I noticed a fresh cut across Cal's right knuckle. Not a paper cut, but wide and red, as if something had torn the skin open. Tessa noticed too. Her eyes stayed on it. Cal pulled his hand back. Sign in. I went first because I wanted to get it over with. The clipboard had our names typed in a straight line. Evan Cole, Tessa Ward, Marlene Dent, Ross Wynn, Gavin Ree, Denny Heller. Every name was there under mine. In the notes section, there was one word, Nate. I stopped writing. What is this? Cal looked over my shoulder. Just a reference note. That's my brother's name. I know. The room went still. I turned toward him. You know my brother? Cal's face didn't change. I knew of him. What does that mean? It means sign the paper, Evan. His voice had shifted. Not angry, but not friendly anymore. I signed. Not because I trusted him, but because I needed to know what he had. Cal took the clipboard and led us through the front office into the main garage. The space was huge. 3 service bays, 2 vehicle lifts, a deep inspection pit, and a row of rusted lockers along one wall. Old county vehicles sat in various stages of disassembly. A sheriff's cruiser without tires rested on blocks near the back. A burned-out pickup truck sat beside it, windshield blackened around the edges. Work lights hung from cords, but only half were on. Rain hammered the metal roof. Cal pointed toward a row of gray evidence lockers behind a chain-link partition. Those are the boxes. We'll do this one at a time. Gavin shoved his hands into his coat pockets. How long is this going to take? Depends what's in them. I have a meeting in the morning. Cal looked at him. Then you should have stayed home. Gavin stepped forward like he wanted to say something else, but Tessa spoke first. Who sent the letters? Cal looked at her. You know who? No. Yes, you do. Tessa's face hardened. No, I really don't. Cal stared at her a moment, then turned away. I'll start with Gavin. Gavin followed him toward the lockers. The rest of us waited near the middle of the garage. Ross picked up a wrench from a workbench and turned it over in his hands. None of this feels right, he said. Marlene was shaking. Not visibly at first, but I noticed because the paper cup in her hand rattled against her knee. Tessa, I said quietly, do you know what this is about? She looked at me. Her eyes were tired, not sleepy, just tired in a way that made me think she'd spent years waiting for something bad. I think I do, she said. Then tell me. Before she could answer, something crashed in the back of the garage, a heavy sound, metal slamming against concrete. Everyone jumped. Cal shouted something. Then came a scream, not a long one, just one sharp, broken sound. Gavin. We ran toward the service bay. The first thing I saw was his shoe sticking out from under the vehicle lift. The rest of him was under a rusted county SUV that had been raised several feet off the ground. The lift had come down hard. Not all the way, but the SUV was resting across Gavin's chest and stomach. His arms were trapped beneath him. His face was turned toward us. At first, I thought he was still alive because his eyes were open. Then I saw blood bubbling out of his mouth. His ribs had pushed up beneath his shirt in ways ribs weren't supposed to move. One had broken through the fabric near his collarbone. Cal was at the lift controls, hitting the switch. Nothing happened. Help me, he yelled. Ross rushed over. The rest of us stood frozen for maybe 2 seconds. Then Tessa grabbed a metal bar from the floor and handed it to Cal. He jammed it into the side panel, pulling at wires. The lift jerked. The SUV rose a few inches. Gavin made a wet, choking noise. Then the lift dropped again, this time farther. There was a sound like someone breaking a box of dry branches. Gavin's body flattened under the weight. Blood spread across the concrete beneath him. Tessa grabbed my arm hard enough to hurt. "Don't move," she said. I had no idea why she said it. Then I saw what she was looking at, the lift pedal. A small piece of metal had been wedged against it, holding the control down. Someone had done it on purpose. Cal pulled the wedge free. The lift rose again. Ross backed away, so fast he slipped in blood and fell on one knee. Nobody said anything for a few seconds. Then Marlene started crying. Not loudly, just short, shaky breaths through both hands. Cal stared at the body. His face was blank. Tessa looked at him. "You did that," she said. Cal turned toward her. "No, you brought him over here. I was at the lockers. You were standing at the controls. I was trying to get the lift up. You knew how to stop it. I did stop it. After he was dead." Cal walked toward her. I stepped between them without thinking. He stopped a few feet away. "I didn't kill Gavin," he said. "Then who did?" I asked. Cal looked toward the darkness beyond the far service bay. He didn't answer. Ross stood up, wiped blood off his coat, then looked down at his hand. He stared at it. I don't think he'd understood what was on him until then. He vomited beside the tool chest. Marlene kept crying. Denny had not moved at all. He stood near the burned-out pickup, looking at Gavin's body with his hands in his jacket pockets. I noticed something then. He didn't look shocked. He looked interested. Cal finally said, "Everyone goes back to the office." "No," Tessa said. Cal looked at her. "No, you don't get to tell us where to go now. There's somebody in the building. Maybe there is. Or maybe you're trying to put us somewhere easier to trap." Cal jau diktanat. "You think I wanted this? I think you knew something was going to happen." Marlene suddenly stood up, her chair scraping across the floor. "I need to leave." Cal looked at her. "Marlene, I need to leave right now." She walked toward the front office. Cal moved after her. She flinched away. "Don't touch me. I'm not trying to touch you. You should have let it go." The words came out before she could stop them. Everyone heard them. Cal went still. Tessa looked from Marlene to Cal. What did she mean? Marlene stared at the floor. "Marlene," Cal said quietly. "No, you know why you're here." She looked up at him, face white. Then she ran, not toward the front door, but toward the hallway beside the office. Cal shouted after her. She disappeared into the dark. A few seconds later, we heard a door slam. Ross looked at Cal. "What the hell is this?" Cal rubbed a hand over his face, then walked to the workbench and grabbed a flashlight. "I need to find her." "You're not going anywhere alone," I said. He looked at me. "You want to come?" I didn't, but I also didn't want him walking away where none of us could see him. Tessa came with us. Ross stayed in the garage with D&E. We found the hallway door open. The corridor beyond was narrow, lined with old offices. Emergency lights were on, but barely. They gave everything a dull orange color. Cal called Marlene's name. Nothing. Tessa held the flashlight while Cal checked the first few rooms. Most were empty. One had old desks stacked against the wall. Another had shelves full of cardboard boxes marked with dates. The last room at the end was a bathroom. The door was closed. Cal nuka. Marlene. No answer. He tried the handle. Locked. "Marlene," he said again. "Open the door." Still nothing. Tessa looked at me, then backed away. "Move." Cal stapatacida. Tessa kicked near the handle. First kick did nothing. Second cracked the frame. Cal shoved his shoulder into it. The door opened. Marlene sat against the far wall. At first, I thought she'd slipped and hit her head. Then I saw the blood. Her left hand had been nailed to the floor. Not with a small nail, but with one of those long metal spikes used to secure heavy machinery. It went through her palm into the concrete. Her fingers twitched weakly around it. Another spike through her right thigh. Blood ran down her leg and pooled under her hip. Cal rushed toward her. Tessa grabbed him. "Wait." "What?" "Look at the door." There was a thin wire stretched across the bottom of the frame. Cal froza. A second later, something clicked above us. Tessa shoved me backward. The ceiling panel dropped. A heavy metal toolbox fell straight down where Cal had been standing. It hit the floor hard enough to crack the tile. If he'd taken one more step, it would have crushed his head. Marlene made a horrible gasping sound. Cal moved anyway, stepping carefully over the wire, kneeling beside her. "Who did this?" he asked. Marlene's eyes moved toward him. Her lips shook. "Mercer," she whispered. Cal's face changed. Not surprise, really, more like confirmation. "Marlene, where is he?" She coughed. Blood spilled down her chin. "He knows." "Ooh, he knows about the letter." Her eyes drifted toward me, then toward Tessa. "Don't let him take." She stopped. Her body jerked once. Then she went limp. Cal sat back slowly. Tessa looked at him. "Mercer?" Cal didn't answer. "Who is Mercer?" He stood up. "We need to get back to the garage." "No," I said. "You need to start talking." He looked at me with tired eyes. "I will, but not here." We went back. Ross was gone. Danny still stood by the burned pickup. "Where's Ross?" I asked. Danny looked toward the front office. He said he was going to find a phone. Cal swore under his breath. Tessa pointed at D&E. "And you let him go?" "Ne shrugged. He's a grown man." I looked at the front office. The door half open, lights off inside. "Ross." No answer. I walked toward it. Tessa followed close behind. The coffee machine still made a low, bubbling noise. Ross's coat lay on the floor. There was blood on the desk. A lot of it. A trail led behind the filing cabinets. I didn't want to look. I did anyway. Ross lay on his back, throat cut open. Not a small cut. His neck opened almost to the spine. His eyes were wide, his mouth moving, but no sound came out. He was still alive. Tessa dropped to her knees beside him, pressing both hands against his neck. Blood pushed between her fingers. Ross grabbed my wrist, tried to speak. Nothing but air. His hand loosened. His eyes stopped moving. Tessa sat back, hands covered in blood. For a moment, nobody said anything. Then Cal said, "We lock the doors. We find whoever's here." I turned on him. "You knew this was connected. You knew Marlene. You knew my brother. You brought us here." Cal looked at Ross's body, then at Marlene's blood still on his sleeve. He looked older than he had when I first walked in. "I brought you here," he said. Tessa stood up. "What?" "I sent the letters." The garage went quiet except for rain on the roof. D&E looked at Cal. "So this is your little reunion?" Cal ignored him, looking at me. "I didn't send them through county records. I made them. I had help getting the case numbers and the addresses." "You lured us here," I said. "Yes." "Why?" Cal swalluba. "Because nobody ever paid for what happened to my son." His voice didn't rise. He didn't shout. That made it worse. "My son Owen died in that car. Your brother disappeared. Lena Ward disappeared from the hospital. The police lied. The county lied. The reports were changed. Everybody who was there walked away and acted like nothing happened." Tessa stared at him. "You know who I am." Cal nudda. "I knew when you signed in." Tessa's face hardened. "You sent me that letter knowing I was alive." "Yes." "You had no right. You think I don't know that you used my name?" "I used everybody's name. You don't get to decide when people have to come back to this." Cal looked at her for a long moment. "No," he said quietly. "I don't." Then he looked at me, but I was done waiting. I could barely process what he was saying. "You brought us here to what? Make us confess." I wanted the truth recorded by trapping us in a condemned garage. I locked the front gate. I didn't lock the building. "You knew where the cameras were," Tessa said. "Cal nudda. There are cameras in the old evidence room. I set them up yesterday." "Why would you do that?" "Because Marlene knew. Ross knew. Gavin knew. Mercer knew." Denny finally spoke. "Careful," he said. Cal looked at him. "You know exactly who I'm talking about." He smiled slightly, the first expression I'd seen from him. "What do I know?" Cal took one step toward him. "You were on the road that night. Nes Mille disappeared." Tessa looked between them. "What is he talking about?" Cal pointed at D&E. "That's not Dane Heller." The man in the brown jacket looked at him without blinking. Cal said, "His name is Dale Mercer." Everything in me tightened. I knew that name, not from a police report, but from my mom. She used to say it when she thought I wasn't listening. Deputy Dale Mercer had been the first officer to arrive at Hollow Bend. He'd been the one who told my family Nate probably ran away. He'd been the one who told reporters there was no evidence of foul play. He'd retired 6 months later. Nell left softly. That's a serious accusation. Cal moved closer. You ran them off the road. You're grieving. You killed my boy. I didn't kill anybody. Tessa stepped forward, pale but steady. I remember the cruiser. D&E looked at her for the first time. He looked uncomfortable. I remember the lights behind us, she said. I remember Owen saying the car was following too close. I remember Nate filming from the passenger seat. D&E looked toward the floor, then back at her. You were barely conscious when police found you. I was conscious enough. You were a kid. I was 17. You were drunk. I wasn't driving. The way he said it made something click in my head. He wasn't denying anything. He was trying to make it sound smaller. Cal grabbed D&E by the collar. D&E reacted fast. He drove his forehead into Cal's face. Cal stumbled back. D&E pulled a knife from inside his jacket, short and black, the kind you could carry in a boot or pocket. Tessa backed away. I grabbed the nearest thing I could reach, which happened to be a tire iron. D&E looked at all of us. Then he smiled again. You really should have let this go, he said. The lights went out. Every light in the garage died at once. The heater stopped. The coffee machine stopped. For half a second, there was nothing but rain and breathing. Then someone screamed. It was Cal. A flashlight beam swung wildly across the garage. I heard metal hit metal, then a wet thud. The emergency lights came on. Cal was on the floor. A blade was buried in his side. He clutched at it with one hand. D&E was gone. Tessa dropped beside Cal. Where did he go? Cal grunta. Back door. I looked toward the service bays. One of the garage doors was open just enough to show rain blowing in. Evan, Tessa said, help me. We dragged Cal behind the workbench. Blood soaked through his shirt. He looked at me. He has the phone. What phone? Your brother's. My breath caught. What? Cal grabbed my jacket. Locker 12. Bottom row. Don't let him get it. And he pushed me away. Tessa, try to stop the bleeding. I looked at the evidence lockers behind the chain-link partition. Locker 12 was at the far end. I ran. The chain-link gate was locked with a padlock. I grabbed the metal and shook it. Nothing. Tessa shouted, keys. Cal reached into his pocket, pulled out a ring, and threw it across the floor. I caught it. There were 6 keys. My hand shook so badly I dropped the first 2. The third worked. I opened the gate. The evidence lockers were old, gray metal cabinets with numbered doors. Locker 12 was near the bottom. I crouched in front of it. For a second, I couldn't make myself open it. Then I turned the handle. Inside was a cardboard box, my brother's name written across the top in black marker. Nathan Cole. I stopped breathing. The box was dusty, cardboard soft around the edges, like it had been moved a lot. I pulled it out and opened it. Inside was Nate's hoodie, the same dark blue hoodie he'd worn the night he disappeared, with brown stains on the sleeve, his old wallet, a cracked pair of sunglasses, a keychain from our dad's truck, and his phone. It was in a clear evidence bag. The screen was broken. I picked it up. For 8 years, I'd imagined seeing that phone again. I thought I'd feel something huge, anger, relief, some kind of answer. Instead, I just felt sick because it meant someone had had the entire time. Someone had put it in a box. Someone had written his name on it. Someone had decided it was easier to store it than to tell us where he was. Under the phone was a small black memory card in a plastic case. Cal had written one word on a sticky note, video. I heard a sound behind me, a shoe scraping across concrete. I turned. D&E Mercer stood at the end of the locker aisle. He had a gun now, not a big one, a compact black pistol held low at his side. His jacket was gone. Under it, he wore an old sheriff's uniform shirt with the name patch ripped off. He looked at the box in my hands. There it is, he said. I backed away. You had this. Not all of it. You had my brother's phone. I had a lot of things. Where is he? D&E didn't answer. I raised the tire iron. He laughed. You think that's going to help? You're not getting this. He took a step forward. Then Tessa came around the end of the lockers and threw a metal can at him. It hit his shoulder. He fired. The shot was so loud in the small aisle my ears rang. The bullet hit the locker beside my head. Tessa grabbed my arm. Run. We ran through the chain-link gate and back into the garage. Denny fired again. The bullet hit the concrete behind us. Cal was still on the floor near the workbench. Tessa helped him up. We have to get out. There's a tunnel, Cal said. What? Old drainage tunnel under the inspection pit. It goes to the fuel shed. You could have told us that earlier, I said. Cal looked at me. I didn't know Mercer would find out. Denny's voice came from the locker aisle. Cal flincha. Denny stepped out slowly, gun pointed at us. Rain blew through the half-open garage door behind him. Put the phone down, Evan. No, put it down. You tell me where my brother is. Denny's face stayed calm. You don't want to know. Yes, I do. You really don't. Tessa moved closer to me. Denny looked at her. Lena. She froze. That was the first time I'd heard her real name. Not Tessa. Lena. You should have stayed gone, Denny said. Lena's jaw clenched. You should have gone to prison. Nis smiled. You think the people who sent you here cared about prison? Cal coughed hard. Blood spilled over his lips. Denny looked at him. You did all this for Owen? Cal said nothing. Denny, he shook his head. Owen was a passenger. That's all he was. Wrong place, wrong time. Cal grabbed a wrench from the floor and threw it. It hit Denny in the arm. The gun went off. The bullet hit the ceiling. Cal rushed him. For a second, they struggled near the open bay door. Denny was older, but he moved like someone who'd done this before. He drove the gun into Cal's face. Cal stumblat. He grabbed him by the back of the shirt and shoved him toward the inspection pit. Cal caught the edge with both hands. His legs kicked against the concrete. I started toward him. Denny pointed the gun at me. Don't. Cal looked up at me, face covered in blood. Go, he said. Denny kicked him in the fingers. One hand slipped, then the other. Cal fell backward into the pit. There was a metal beam crossing the bottom. He hit hard. The sound his body made against it stayed with me. Chest first, back bending around the beam, then dropping to the concrete below. He didn't move. Lena grabbed my sleeve. Evan. Denny was still looking down at Cal. That gave us maybe 2 seconds. We ran, behind the vehicle lift, around the burned pickup, toward the far wall where an old metal grate was set into the floor. Lena kicked it open. Cold air came up from below. The tunnel was barely wide enough to crawl through. I went first because I had the phone. Lena came behind me. I could hear Denny shouting above us. Then the grate slammed shut. The tunnel smelled like mud, gasoline, and stagnant water. Just enough room to crawl on hands and knees. My jeans soaked through immediately. Behind me, Lena breathed fast. Neither of us said anything for a while. I kept moving because stopping would mean thinking. The tunnel ran straight for maybe 30 feet, then turned left. Old pipes lined one side, some leaking slowly. Water dripped into the shallow stream beneath us. My phone vibrated in my pocket. For 1 second, I thought I had signal. Then I realized it was Nate's phone. The broken screen had lit up. I stopped. Lena crawled into the back of me. What? I held it up. The screen flashed once, then went dark again. No battery, I said. Could be a power surge. It shouldn't have any charge. Evan, we need to keep moving. I looked at the phone again, then put it in my pocket. We crawled until we reached a vertical ladder. At the top was another grate. Lena climbed first and pushed, nothing. It stuck, she whispered. I climbed beside her as much as I could. Together we shoved. The grate moved an inch, then another. Cold rain blew in. We pushed it open and climbed out into a small concrete room behind the main garage, the old fuel shed. Rusted tanks lined one wall. An overturned desk sat near the door. For the first time in what felt like forever, we were outside the main building. I could see the gate through the rain, maybe 100 yards away. Beyond it was the road. If we could get there, we could run. Lena moved toward the door, then stopped. What? She pointed at the ground, fresh tire tracks in the mud. A county sheriff's cruiser was parked beside the fuel shed. I hadn't seen it when I arrived. Its headlights were off. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out wearing a deputy's uniform. Younger than Din, maybe mid-30s, clean-shaven, calm. His name tag said Heller. He looked at us. "Thank God," he said. "I've been looking for you." Lena grabbed my arm. I felt her fingers dig into my skin. The deputy lifted both hands. "It's okay. I got the call from dispatch. There's been a shooting inside." I didn't answer. He looked at my face, then at Lena. "You two hurt? Who are you?" Lena asked. "Deputy Grant Heller, County Sheriff's Office." She looked at his badge, then at the cruiser. He walked closer. "Where's the shooter?" "Inside," I said. He nodded. "Okay, get in the car. I'll call it in." Lena whispered, "Evan." I looked at her. Her eyes were wide, shaking her head almost imperceptibly. The deputy saw it. "What's wrong?" Lena stepped back. "Nothing." "Ma'am, I need you to get into the vehicle." "No." His expression changed. "Not much, just enough." The friendly look disappeared. He took one step toward us. Then a gunshot came from the garage. Deputy Heller turned toward the noise. At the same time, Denny Mercer came around the corner of the fuel shed, blood on his face, Cal's work shirt clutched in one hand. He looked at the deputy. The deputy looked at him. Neither seemed surprised to see the other. That was when I understood. Not everything, but enough. Lena grabbed my wrist. "Run." We ran toward the fence. A shot cracked behind us. Something hit the ground near my foot. We ducked behind an old tow truck parked beside the fuel shed. I heard the deputy yell, "You're making this harder than it has to be." Denny shouted back, "You brought them here. Cal brought them here. You knew about the letters." I knew Cal was stupid enough to send them. They were arguing, not like strangers, like people who had done this before. Lena pressed herself against the side of the truck, face wet with rain. "I know Heller," she said. "What?" "He was there that night." "What do you mean?" "He wasn't a deputy then. He was a sheriff's transport officer. He worked with Mercer." "You're sure?" "I saw him when they dragged Nate out of the car." Everything around me seemed to flatten. The rain, the garage, the shooting. I looked at her. "What did you say?" Lena looked away. "I didn't know his name then. I saw him again later at the hospital. He came into my room after they said I had a concussion." "You saw Nate?" She looked at me. "He was alive." "You still here?" "You saw him alive." "I saw them pull him out of the car. He was bleeding, but he was alive. He was filming." He kept asking where Owen was. My hand started shaking. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" "I tried." "You disappeared." "My aunt took me away. She thought they were going to kill me." "She was right. You knew this whole time." "I knew he was taken. I didn't know where. I didn't know if he survived." I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to hit something. Instead, I looked toward the garage. Nate's phone was in my jacket pocket. His phone had survived. That meant there might be more. Helen's voice came from somewhere behind the tow truck. "Evan." I froze. "You don't know me," he said. "You don't know what happened that night." Lena whispered, "Don't listen." Heller continued, "Your brother got himself involved in something he didn't understand." I gripped the tire iron. He was 17. He was filming things that didn't concern him. "He saw you. He saw a lot of people." Denny said, "Shut up." Heller laughed. "You're worried about what he knows now?" Another shot. A bullet punched through the side of the tow truck above us. Lena screamed. I grabbed her and pulled her lower. Denny shouted, "You hit her." "I missed." "Not by much." "You want to blame me, Dale?" "You drove the car." My stomach dropped. D&E had driven the cruiser. Heller had been with him. They had chased Nate and his friends. They had run them off the road. They had taken Nate afterward. The whole thing wasn't some accident with bad paperwork. It had been a crime from the beginning. Lena looked at me. "We have to move." The fence was close. The gate was locked, but there was a section of chain link near the corner bent up from the bottom. I'd seen it when I first drove in. We crawled along the side of the tow truck. Rain covered some of the sound behind us. Heller and D&E were still arguing. Then a body hit the hood of the truck hard. D&E rolled across the metal and fell in front of us. He'd been shot in the side. He looked at me, eyes wild now, not calm, not in control. He reached toward me. "Heller's got the keys," he gasped. Lena kicked his hand away. He grabbed at her boot. She stomped down on his fingers. He screamed. Then Heller rounded the front of the tow truck with his gun raised. Denny tried to crawl away. Heller shot him in the back. The bullet hit high between his shoulders. Denny's body jerked forward, hit the mud face first. Heller looked at us, then at Denny. "See," he said, "that was self-defense." Lena ran. I ran after her. We hit the fence. She dropped to the ground and grabbed the bent section. I helped her pull it up. It scraped against the pavement. Not enough. We needed it higher. Behind us, Heller was coming. I shoved the tire iron under the fence and pushed. The metal rose. Lena slid through first. Her jacket tore across the back. Then I shoved the phone into my chest pocket and slid after her. Something grabbed my ankle. Heller's hand. He'd caught me through the gap. I kicked backward. He held on. I kicked again. My heel hit his face. He cursed and loosened his grip. I pulled free. Lena and I ran into the road. My car was still parked where I'd left it. The other cars were there too. All of them had flat tires, every single one. I stared at them. The tires had been cut, not blown out cut. Clean slashes in the rubber. Cal had lied about a lot of things, but he hadn't done that. Heller had made sure nobody could leave, even if they reached the gate. We ran past the cars and down the road. I didn't know where we were going. I just knew we had to get away from the building. Rain came down hard enough that the road looked like a black river. Lena limped now. I could hear her struggling to breathe. Behind us, an engine started, the sheriff's cruiser. "Move," I said. "I'm trying." We left the road and ran into the trees. Branches slapped my face, mud pulled at my shoes. The cruiser's headlights swept across the road behind us, then disappeared. For a second, I thought Heller had gone the other way. Then I saw the lights moving through the trees. He'd driven around the fence, coming down the service road toward the woods. Lena grabbed my sleeve. There, a drainage ditch ran along the edge of the property, a concrete culvert under the road. We jumped into the ditch. Cold water hit my legs up to my knees. Lena almost fell. I caught her under the arm. We crouched under the concrete pipe just as the cruiser rolled past overhead. Tires made a low humming sound on the wet road. Heller stopped. The engine idled. I could see light through the cracks where the pipe met the road. Then the driver's door opened. Boots hit the pavement. Heller walked slowly along the ditch. "Evan," he called. His voice sounded normal, almost patient. "You don't have to make this worse." Lena pressed a hand over her mouth. I could feel her shaking beside me. Heller stopped near the culvert. "You think I want to hurt you?" I looked at the black water flowing past my boots. "You already did," I whispered. He didn't hear me, or maybe he did. He continued. "Your brother was alive for a while." My whole body locked up. Heller crouched near the edge of the ditch. "I don't know if you want that truth, but it's true." Lena looked at me. I could barely breathe. "Where is he?" I shouted. Heller smiled. I could hear it in his voice. "That's better. Now we can talk." "Where is Nate?" He made it difficult. "Where is he?" He kept asking for his phone. I stepped toward the pipe opening. Lena grabbed my jacket. "No," Heller said. "He said he had video. He said he'd uploaded it." "He didn't. He was just trying to stay alive." The words hit me harder than anything else that night. I imagined Nate injured and terrified, still trying to bargain with people who'd already decided what to do to him. I wanted to go after Heller, to crawl out of that pipe and beat him until my hands stopped working. Lena held me down. Heller kept talking. He didn't suffer long. Lena made a sound beside me. I don't think she meant to. Heller's flashlight clicked on. The beams swept across the ditch. We moved deeper into the culvert. The light caught the water near us. Heller stepped closer. Then a phone rang, not mine. His. He swore under his breath. The light moved away. I heard him answer. "What?" A pause. "No, I have them." Another pause. His voice changed. "Who called it in?" He listened. "State police." I looked at Lena. She pointed to my pocket. Nate's phone. I pulled it out. The screen was on. A message notification glowed through the cracked glass. It had somehow connected to the cruiser's radio signal or a nearby tower. I didn't understand how, but I saw the message. Emergency SOS activated. Location shared. I looked at Lena. She stared at it. Your brother must have set it up, she whispered. The phone had an emergency shortcut. Maybe Nate had activated it the night he disappeared. Maybe the signal never got out until now. Maybe the phone had been waiting all these years. Heller shouted into his own phone. No, you don't send anyone here. I'll handle it. Then he got back in the cruiser. The engine roared. The car sped away. For a second, neither of us moved. Then Lena said, we need to get back to the garage. Istir daher. What? The video card. It's in my pocket. No, the rest of it. Cal said there were cameras. There could be recordings. Heller's going back to destroy them. I don't care about recordings. You should. I want to get out. So do I. Then let's go the other way. Lena looked at me. If the police show up and Heller is gone, he'll say we attacked him. He has a cruiser. He has a gun. He has a story. He killed people. And he'll blame it on Cal. Cal is dead. Mercer is dead. Everyone else is dead. It will be your word and mine. I looked at the road, then at Nate's phone. She was right. I hated that she was right. We waited until the cruiser's lights were gone. Then we climbed out of the culvert and went back through the trees. The garage looked different from the outside now. Not haunted, not alive, just ugly. A rusted county building full of dead people and old lies. The rain had slowed. Smoke drifted from one side of the roof. Heller must have started something inside. We came through the fence where we'd escaped. The sheriff's cruiser was gone. The garage door was open. Inside, the main lights were out again. Emergency lights threw orange lines across the floor. Gavin's body still under the lifted SUV. Marlene still in the bathroom. Ross still behind the filing cabinets. Cal in the inspection pit. D&E outside in the mud. Every person who'd come because of the letters was dead except Lena and me. I felt something break in my chest. Not grief exactly. Grief came later. This was more like the moment your body understands that there's no normal version of the night left. Lena found a fire extinguisher near the tool chest. I grabbed a crowbar. We moved toward the evidence lockers. The chain link gate was still open. The box with Nate's things was still on the floor. I picked it up. Lena checked the memory card. Do you have anything that can read this? There was an office computer. We went through the hallway. Marlene's body still in the bathroom. I didn't look at her this time. The office at the end had an old desktop computer on a metal desk with a card slot in the front. Lena inserted the memory card. Nothing at first. Then the screen flickered on. A folder opened. Dozens of video files, most with dates. The earliest was from 8 years ago. Hollow Bend, October 14th, 2018. My hands went cold. Lena clicked it. The video was shaky, filmed from inside a car. I saw Nate's hand first, holding the phone in front of him. The windshield was cracked, the night outside dark except for headlights behind them. Owen was driving. I recognized him from old photos. Curly hair, thin face, one hand on the wheel. Lena in the back seat, half turned toward the rear window. Nate said, he's still following us. Owen said, I know. Lena said, just pull over. No way. A police cruiser behind them. Not close enough to see the driver, but close enough that the lights filled the back window. Nate turned the phone toward himself. He looked scared. Not panic, not screaming, just scared. If anything happens, he said, this is Deputy Mercer's car. The video jumped. The car swerved. Lena screamed. The camera spun. For a second, all I could see was black sky and the edge of the road. Then impact. The sound was horrible. Metal folding, glass breaking, someone screaming. The phone landed sideways. The image showed dirt, broken branches, part of the car door. Then boots came into view. 2 sets. One pair belonged to D&E Mercer. Even after 8 years, I knew him immediately. Younger, but it was him. The second man was Heller, wearing a county transport uniform. Nate was somewhere off camera. I could hear him groaning. Owen wasn't making any sound. Lena was crying. Mercer said the kid filmed it. Heller said Then get the phone. Mercer said, he's still alive. Heller said, not for long. The video shook again. Someone picked up the phone. For a second, Nate's face filled the screen. He was lying on the ground, blood running from his forehead into one eye. He looked directly at the camera and whispered, Evan. I stopped breathing. It was the first time I'd heard my brother's voice in years. He looked terrified, but he was alive. The camera moved. Mercer grabbed Nate by the jacket and dragged him away. The video cut out. I stared at the screen. Lena was crying silently. Behind us, something creaked. The office door slowly opened. Heller stood in the hallway, blood on his uniform, gun raised. Touching, he said. Lena spun around. I grabbed the computer monitor and threw it at him. It hit the door frame and shattered. Heller fired. The bullet punched through the desk beside me. Lena grabbed the evidence box. We ran through the other door at the back of the office, into a storage room filled with shelves. Heller fired again. Glass exploded somewhere behind us. We pushed through boxes and old equipment. At the far wall, a metal door with a small window locked. Lena tried the handle. Nothing. I swung the crowbar at the lock once, twice. The third hit broke the latch. The door opened into the back garage. We ran out into the rain. Heller followed. Stop. A shot hit the ground near Lena's foot. She stumbled. I pulled her behind a parked tow truck. There was no time to think, no path that felt safe. The fence was still open where we'd bent it. Beyond that was the road, but Heller had already shown us he could move faster in the cruiser. Lena looked at the burned pickup inside the garage. The truck. What? The burned truck. It has keys. How do you know? I saw them when we came in. You want to drive that? We don't need to go far. We ran back through the garage. Heller was outside now, circling around the fuel shed. The burned pickup had no windshield, but the doors still opened. The keys hung from a hook under the dash. I got in, the seat wet, interior smelling like ash and mold. Lena climbed in beside me, with the evidence box pressed to her chest. I turned the key. Nothing. I tried again. The engine coughed once, then again. Heller came through the main bay. He saw us, raise his gun. The truck started. I slammed it into reverse. The back window was gone, so rain flew in behind us. I backed out fast. Heller fired. The bullet shattered the passenger side mirror. Lena ducked. I turned the wheel hard. The truck spun slightly in the mud, then caught traction. We shot through the open garage door and onto the service road. The truck had almost no headlights. One worked, the other flickered. The steering pulled left. The brakes felt soft, but it moved. That was enough. I drove faster than I should have. The road was wet and narrow, trees pressed in on both sides. Every time we hit a pothole, the truck shook like it was going to come apart. Lena held onto the dashboard with one hand and the evidence box with the other. Behind us, headlights appeared, the cruiser. Heller was coming. You have to lose him, Lena said. I know. There's an old quarry road up ahead. You know this area? My aunt lived near here. Why didn't you mention that? Because I didn't think we'd be running from a cop through a storm. The cruiser got closer, headlights filling the rearview mirror. Heller rammed the back of the truck. The pickup lurched forward. The evidence box slid across Lena's lap. Nate's phone hit the floor. I grabbed the wool tighter. He's going to push us off. I know. You keep saying that. Because I know. I saw a narrow road breaking off to the right. No sign, just gravel and trees. Lena pointed. There. I turned hard. The truck fishtailed. For a second, I thought we were going to roll. Then the tires caught gravel. We shot down the quarry road. Heller followed. The road climbed uphill. The pickup struggled. The engine made a grinding sound. The cruiser closed the distance again. Lena looked behind us. He's right there. I saw an abandoned excavator ahead, parked near the edge of the quarry. Beyond it, a wide-open pit filled with dark water. No lights, no buildings, just gravel, machinery, and black trees. The road ended there. I hit the brakes. The pickup slid sideways and stopped near the excavator. Heller's cruiser stopped behind us. For 1 second, neither vehicle moved. Then Heller got out, gun in one hand, rain running down his face. He looked exhausted now. Not invincible, not calm, just angry. He walked toward the truck. "Get out," Lena whispered. "Don't. We don't have anywhere to go." "Then make somewhere." Heller aimed the gun at the windshield. "Evan, I know you can hear me." I looked at Nate's phone on the floor. The cracked screen lit up again. Another message, this time from an unknown number. "State police have been notified. Stay away from any marked county vehicle." I showed Lena. She looked at it, then toward the cruiser. "He knows they're coming," she said. "That's why he brought us here." Heller shouted, "Last chance." I looked at the excavator, old but the key still in it. Lena saw what I was looking at. She nodded once. I opened my door. Heller raised the gun, hands where I can see them. I stepped out slowly. Lena stayed inside. Heller pointed the gun at my chest. "Phone." "What?" "Your brother's phone." I reached into my pocket, not because I wanted to give it to him, but because I wanted him looking at my hands. I pulled it out. He stepped closer. "Throw it." I threw it toward him, not hard. It hit the ground near his feet. He looked down. At the same time, Lena climbed out the passenger side and ran toward the excavator. Heller spun and fired. The shot missed her. I rushed him. He hit me in the face with the gun. I fell into the mud. My teeth slammed together. I tasted blood. He raised the gun again. Then the excavator engine roared to life. Heller looked toward it. Lena had gotten inside. The machine's headlights came on bright and white. The excavator arm lifted. Heller fired at the cab. The bullet hit the glass but didn't break through. Lena swung the arm toward him. Heller jumped aside. The bucket smashed into the hood of the cruiser. Metal folded inward. The siren chirped once before dying. Heller ran toward the excavator. I grabbed Nate's phone from the mud. Then I saw the crowbar lying near the truck. I picked it up. Heller climbed onto the track of the excavator and reached for the cab door. Lena swung the arm again. The machine rocked. Heller grabbed the railing. I ran toward him. He saw me coming too late. I swung the crowbar. It hit his wrist. The gun dropped. He screamed. I swung again. This time it hit his knee. He fell off the track and landed hard on the gravel. The excavator bucket came down beside him. Not on him, close enough to spray stones against his face. Heller tried to crawl. I grabbed the gun before he could. He looked up at me, face covered in rain, blood, and mud. "Evan," he said, "you don't know what you're doing." I pointed the gun at him. "You said that already. Your brother wasn't innocent." I felt something inside me twist. "What?" "He wasn't filming us because he wanted justice." "Shut up." "He was selling the video." "No, he wanted money." "You're lying." "He knew what he had. He wanted to trade it." "Shut up." "He thought he could make a deal." Lena climbed down from the excavator, came toward us slowly. Heller looked at her. "Ask her." Lena stopped. I looked at her. She didn't answer. That was enough. "No," I said. Lena's eyes filled with tears. "He wanted to get us out," she said. "What?" "He told them he'd uploaded the video. He said he'd delete it if they let us go." "Il sert de here." He was trying to save you. He was trying to save all of us. Heller laughed weakly. "He got Owen killed." Lena walked closer. "No, you did." Heller looked at her. "You don't know how any of this worked. I know you chased us. You kids were in the wrong place. You ran us off the road. You were trespassing. You took Nate." Heller's face tightened. "I didn't take him." "Then who did?" He looked away. That was the first honest reaction he'd given all night. I realized there was still something missing. Mercer and Heller had taken Nate from the crash, but maybe they'd handed him off to somebody else. Maybe Nate had survived longer than we knew. Maybe the people who covered it up were bigger than those two men. I wanted answers. I wanted every name. But I could hear sirens in the distance now, real sirens, not the dying chirp of Heller's broken cruiser. Heller heard them too. He looked at me, then smiled. "You think this ends with me?" I stepped closer. "You're going to tell them everything." He looked at the quarry water, then at the gun in my hand. "You're going to have to explain all the bodies first." Lena grabbed my arm. "Evan." I looked at her. She was shaking, not from fear anymore, from exhaustion. "You can't do this," she said. Heller moved fast. He grabbed a handful of gravel and threw it at my face. I flinched. He lunged for the gun. We hit the ground. The gun went off. The shot echoed across the quarry. Heller was on top of me, his hands closed around my throat. He was stronger than he looked, his face inches from mine. "You should have stayed home," he said. I grabbed for anything. My hand hit the crowbar. I pulled it toward us. Heller saw it. He tried to move. I swung. The crowbar struck the side of his head. Once, he fell sideways. I swung again, harder. This time he stopped moving. The sirens got closer. I sat there in the mud with the crowbar in my hand. Lena stood over me. Neither of us said anything. I didn't feel like I'd won. I didn't feel relieved. I felt empty, like everything that had kept me moving that night had suddenly shut off. The state police arrived about 4 minutes later. 2 cruisers, then an ambulance. The first officer who got out had his weapon drawn until he saw Heller on the ground. He asked who fired the shots. He asked if anyone else was alive. He asked where the building was. He asked about the other bodies. I answered what I could. Lena answered the rest. They took us to the hospital before sunrise. I sat in a hard plastic chair with a blanket around my shoulders and dried blood on my hands. A detective took Nate's phone from an evidence bag and asked if I knew the passcode. I did. It was the same code Nate used for everything when he was younger, our dad's birthday. The detective handed the phone back to me. The screen was cracked, but it turned on. There were dozens of old files. Most were corrupted, some were blank. But there was one folder that opened. It had 3 videos. The crash video was one. The second was a short clip of Nate in the back of some kind of van. He was alive, blood on his face. He looked into the camera and said, "If you find this, tell Evan I didn't leave." The third was only audio. The screen stayed black. I listened to it 3 times. At first, all I could hear was static, then voices, Mercer, Heller, and someone else, a third man. The voice said, "Move the boy before daylight. Marrow knows too much already." The detective asked who it was. I told him I didn't know, but I did. Not exactly. I knew I'd heard that voice before, years ago at a press conference after Nate disappeared, standing beside my mother, telling her they would never stop looking. The county sheriff. They arrested him 2 days later. Then they found 3 more bodies connected to Hollow Bend. Not Nate, not at first. They found him 6 months later in a burial site behind an abandoned recycling plant, 40 miles away. They said he'd been dead less than 24 hours after the crash. That was somehow worse than not knowing. At least before, part of me could still imagine he'd gotten away. Part of me could picture him living somewhere under a different name, older now, maybe angry that we'd stopped searching. The truth gave me something solid. It also took everything else. Lena stayed in town after that. She testified. So did I. Cal Marrow was buried beside Owen. I went to the funeral, even though I barely knew him. His wife hugged me and cried into my shoulder for a long time. She told me Cal had been trying to do the right thing. I didn't know what to say. He had trapped us in that garage. He had lied. He had used fear as a weapon. But he had also spent 8 years carrying the same kind of loss my family carried. I don't know if that made him good. I don't know if it made him forgivable. I just know he died trying to stop the men who killed his son. For months after that, I couldn't drive at night. Every set of headlights behind me made my hands sweat. Every police cruiser made my heart race. I changed my phone passcode because I couldn't stand seeing my dad's birthday on the screen anymore. I moved out of my apartment because it was too close to the road Nate used the night he disappeared. Sometimes when I'm awake too late, I still hear the garage lift coming down. I still see Gavin's hand under that SUV, Marlene in the bathroom, Heller looking at me from the ditch, telling me my brother had been alive. But the worst thing is the phone. I kept it after the trial. They gave it back in a sealed evidence bag along with Nate's wallet, his hoodie, and the keychain from my dad's truck. The phone doesn't work most of the time. The battery is damaged, the screen flickers. It only turns on if I keep it plugged in for a while. A few months ago, I was sitting in my kitchen when it lit up by itself. No charger, no signal, just one notification, a new voicemail. The timestamp was from the night Nate died. I played it. At first, static, Then Nate's voice. He sounded scared but controlled. Evan, I don't know if this is going to send. I think they're taking me somewhere. I can hear another car behind us. I think there's more than two of them. A pause. A car door slammed. Nate whispered, It's not Mercer. The voicemail ended there. I took the phone to the police the next morning. They told me they were looking into it. They said the case was still open. They said there could be other people involved. I nodded. I thanked them. Then I went home and sat in my car for almost an hour without starting it, because the last thing I could think about was that line, It's not Mercer. For 8 years, I thought finding out what happened to my brother would be the end of the story. It wasn't. It was just the first time I understood how many people had been standing around us while it happened.